Before we start our story, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel. Now, let's begin our story. In a faraway land, deep in the heart of the jungle, lived two elephant brothers named Jumbo and Tiny. The jungle was usually lush and green, filled with life, but that summer, something terrible happened. The sky hadn't rained for weeks, and the rivers and ponds were drying up. The animals of the jungle were getting worried. Everyone knew that without water, they wouldn't survive. Jumbo, the older brother, was strong and mighty. His enormous trunk could knock down trees, and he was known for his strength throughout the jungle. Tiny, the younger brother, was smaller in size but quick and clever. While Jumbo relied on his strength, Tiny always found smart solutions to problems. One day, the jungle council gathered, and the wise old tortoise spoke, "We need water. Whoever finds a new source of water will be the hero of the jungle." Jumbo raised his trunk confidently. "I'll find water before anyone else," he declared. Tiny, not one to back down from a challenge, stepped up beside his brother. "We'll see who finds it first," he said with a grin. And so, it was decided. The two brothers would race across the jungle to see who could find water first. The next morning, at the break of dawn, the jungle animals gathered to watch. Jumbo and Tiny stood side by side, ready to begin. "Good luck, little brother," Jumbo said, though he felt certain that his strength would give him the advantage. Tiny smiled back. "You too, big brother," he replied, already forming a plan in his mind. As soon as the race began, Jumbo took off like a bolt of lightning, thundering through the trees, pushing aside bushes, and trampling over everything in his path. He was fast and powerful, covering a lot of ground in a short time. His plan was simple: keep going straight, push through obstacles, and eventually, he was sure he'd find water. Tiny, on the other hand, didn't rush. Instead, he started by thinking. He looked up at the sky and noticed the birds circling above. He remembered something their mother had once told them: when the land dries up, always watch the birds. They know the secrets of the earth. Tiny decided to follow the birds. While Jumbo pushed ahead with brute strength, Tiny used his sharp eyes and quick mind to track the birds flying overhead. They seemed to be heading in one direction, and Tiny trusted their instincts. As Jumbo stormed through the jungle, he began to grow tired. The sun was beating down, and his heavy footsteps were slowing. The further he went, the thirstier he became. "Where is the water?" he grumbled, frustration building up. He had expected to find it by now, but the jungle just stretched on endlessly in front of him. Meanwhile, Tiny was moving at a steady pace, following the path of the birds. He passed through shaded areas, taking small sips of water from dew-covered leaves, keeping himself refreshed. After a while, he noticed something strange. The ground beneath his feet was cooler, and there was a faint sound, like water trickling over rocks. Tiny perked up and followed the sound. To his surprise, he found a small, hidden spring. Water bubbled up from beneath the ground, forming a clear, sparkling pool. It wasn't a big river, but it was enough to save the animals. Tiny was overjoyed. He had found water. Not long after, Jumbo finally arrived, exhausted and thirsty. When he saw Tiny by the pool, his eyes widened in surprise. "You found water? But how?" he asked, panting heavily. Tiny smiled and explained his clever plan about following the birds and paying attention to the land. Jumbo listened carefully and nodded in amazement. "I thought strength would be enough," he admitted. "But you used your brain." I guess being smart is just as important as being strong." The two brothers filled their trunks with water and hurried back to the jungle. When they arrived, the animals cheered, and everyone rushed to drink the life-saving water. The brothers were hailed as heroes, not just because they had found water, but because they had worked together in their own ways. Jumbo's strength and Tiny's intelligence had saved the day. From that day forward, the two brothers learned to respect each other's strengths. Jumbo became more thoughtful in his actions, while Tiny learned that sometimes strength was needed too. Together, they became the guardians of the jungle, ensuring that their home would always have water, even in the toughest times. And so, the jungle thrived once again, thanks to the teamwork and bond of the elephant brothers, Jumbo and Tiny. The end. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.